Today we have Riley J. Dennis talking about Trump calling out fake news and how the right to freedom of speech is completely invalid when expressing your opinions, but completely valid if you're the media and you're exaggerating and flat out lying. Let's see what this fucktard has to say. Enjoy.
It's no secret that Trump hates the media. In February alone, he's tweeted disparaging things about them about 20 times. He's made his feelings about the media very clear.
You mean his opinion that the media often spreads bullshit to push an anti-Trump agenda? A Muslim ban that wasn't a Muslim ban, the assault of a kidnapped white man that was reported as not being racially or politically motivated despite the kidnappers yelling "fuck Trump, fuck white people," or at least it was reported as not being racially or politically motivated by the media but didn't just completely ignore it, just like the same parts of the media ignored the assault of Trump supporters shortly after the election. I wonder why Trump could possibly hate the media that blows his actions way out of proportion to make him appear racist, while ignoring the many cases of injustice against him and his supporters.
Everything is fake news except information that comes directly from him or Fox News.
Now, in no way do I support the news only coming from Trump, but that's not what he's arguing for. He's speaking out against the likes of CNN and BuzzFeed doing nothing but exaggerating or flat out lying about every single action he takes. And when this is happening, and it is what's happening, how else is he supposed to respond? The thing is, and I don't say this lightly, Trump's right to doubt the media. When they spent 18 months before the election shit-talking him while ignoring everything wrong with Clinton, and have only increased this bullshit since him winning the election, the media has done nothing but condition him and the rest of us who are reasonable to doubt every single thing we read. Whenever we see anything calling out Trump, we have to go through a dozen news websites just to do fact-checking to make sure we're not being bullshitted again. That's not how the media should work. The media should be trustworthy, and they're not. I'm using this metaphor a lot lately, but the media is really the boy who cried wolf when it comes to Trump. Because they've done nothing but exaggerate and make up so much already that it's difficult for us to believe anything they do say. And I think Trump's reacting the same way. When you're criticised every day, when you're not doing anything wrong, you're not going to hear it when there's a genuine criticism of genuine mistake.
His supporters, of course, love this. They rally behind him, yelling fake news and believing anything he tells them.
However, you people do the same thing with what the media is reporting, which is no better than taking what Trump says at face value. Which is something that his hardcore supporters might do, but they're no worse than the rest of the idiots who just lap up the media's complaints about Trump. In contrast, the smart people will fact-check both of them, because neither are without fault. You suggesting that the media is above questioning, whilst condemning those who don't fact-check Trump, is simply being too biased to have an objective opinion.
That would almost be funny if it wasn't terrifying. It would be funny if he was just Donald Trump reality TV star, but now that he's the president, it's just the casual degradation of our First Amendment rights.
Yes, everything's terrifying, but you know what's really terrifying? The fact that you refuse to question anything the media says because it fits your anti-Trump narrative. Neither side of this argument is without fault, and I do want to criticise them both, but cunts like you won't let me, because it's always, look at what Trump did, while ignoring the faults of the media. It's like before the election when everyone said, I was hating on Clinton. No, they were both bad candidates, but everyone else was already doing more than enough Trump hate, and no one recognised the flaws on the other side, and just followed them because, well, at least it's not Trump. Well, guess what? That doesn't fucking cut it. Bullshit is bullshit, whether it's agreeing with Trump or arguing against him.
Oddly enough, Trump supporters tend to claim to be huge supporters of the First Amendment. They often call themselves free speech advocates and cry when someone blocks them on Twitter or doesn't pay them to speak at their university.
You say that they're crying over it. You call them bigots. You think this is you winning the debate, and it's not. You're calling them bigots, saying that they're unable to accept other people's opinions while you block them on Twitter, while you refuse to debate with them, while you call for them to be silenced. Having dissenting opinion is not bigotry. Refusing to acknowledge that other people's opinions are valid because they differ from your own is bigoted. They are not the bigots. You are.
And while I don't believe for a second that they actually understand what free speech means in regards to the First Amendment, they seem to have an even tougher time understanding the free press part of the First Amendment. Here's what the First Amendment says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Alright, so let me put it in English for you. The freedom of speech part means that you can say whatever you like and not be punished for it. However, people on our side of the argument are under constant threat of being doxxed, losing their jobs for expressing their opinions, and all because people on your side of the argument refuse to recognise this freedom of speech. This freedom of speech has a couple of exceptions, though. The exceptions being inciting violence, such as the Black Lives Matter riots, or slander and libel. In layman's terms, lying. You know, like the media. The freedom of press part refers to not allowing the government to stop the media reporting any story with a basis in reality. And here's where your argument falls down. When Trump calls the press fake news when they report false or exaggerated stories, that's him giving his opinion, using his freedom of speech. When the media reports lies, that's not covered by the part about the freedom of the press. Donald Trump can't stop the media from reporting legitimate complaints about him, nor can he stop the media from expressing opinions. He can, however, now pay attention, he can call out the media when they lie, because that is not protected by the freedom of the press.
Obviously, this doesn't say anything about individuals blocking other individuals on Twitter, or universities deciding that they don't want to pay bigots to speak on their campuses.
No, it doesn't. However, these acts in and of themselves are also bigoted. So calling Milo a bigot for having a dissenting opinion, then praising people who don't allow him to speak at all because of his opinion, is massively hypocritical. You're saying it's not okay to disagree with people, unless you personally don't like what they're saying, in which case silence them entirely. Do you know what that sounds like? That sounds like a dictatorship.
But what it does say is that Congress can't make a law abridging the freedom of the press. So far under Trump, Congress hasn't done that, but with a president who actually calls the press the enemy of the people, it's not too far-fetched to imagine that they would.
But he can't. It goes against the Constitution to silence the press, even if he knows they're lying, even if over half of America knows they're lying. Only 39% of people believe what the media publish. It's no longer the crazy tin hat opinion. The media has been called out lying so often that less than 2 in every 5 people believe what is published in newspaper articles now.
In fact, Trump has said that the media never will represent the people, and we're going to do something about it. If that's not an ominous threat to stifle the freedom of the press, I don't know what is.
He's not trying to stifle the freedom of the press, though. He's trying to ensure they only relay facts. Does that serve to further his agenda? Yes, of course it does, but that's only because the media, as it is, are attacking him at every opportunity he gives them, and if they don't get a new opportunity each day, they'll simply reiterate, exaggerate, or entirely fabricate more to sell their anti-Trump agenda.
In general, the United States is relatively good at having a free press and transparent government, according to Reporters Without Borders, but it's not perfect. In the past, when people have leaked government secrets, they've been punished for it, and Trump has made it clear that he won't be making things any better in that department.
The government is always going to have secrets, and when a secrecy clause in your contract forbids you from speaking about certain secrets, talking about them publicly is illegal, regardless of freedom of speech.
In fact, he could be cracking down even harder on them. His administration has already been taking whatever steps it can to impede the free press. At a briefing on February 24th, Trump barred prominent news organizations like the BBC, Politico, CNN, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, and BuzzFeed News.
He banned BuzzFeed? What are we gonna do now? Do you notice what all of these news organizations have in common? They've all fabricated or exaggerated stories about Trump. And do you know what's great? Trump doing this doesn't go against the Constitution. Trump effectively just blocked the BBC, Politico, and all those other bullshitters from his social media. He did what you do with anyone who disagrees with you. He just said, nope, fuck off. Not dealing with you. And I think that's great. You assholes do it on social media, and he just did it with the press. So once again, complain all you like, But you're really being hypocritical here, because Trump is doing nothing but mirroring your mindset of anyone who disagrees shouldn't be here.
Even though he allowed in Fox News and Breitbart. That may not be Congress impeding the freedom of the press, but it's definitely the White House picking and choosing news organizations that will look favorably upon it.
No, it's the White House picking and choosing the news organizations that haven't yet lied about Trump or his policies.
Which is funny, since back in December, Sean Spicer, Trump's press secretary, said that barring certain media outlets would be something that a dictator would do. And really, he's not wrong. John McCain has made that comparison. Even George W. Bush has said that we have to protect the free press.
Yeah, but George W. Bush also said America should go into Iraq because Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and look how that turned out. What was it, just under 4,500 US soldiers dead to prove him wrong? Sounds like a guy you should listen to from my perspective. As previously stated, halting the people who lie under the guise of factual reporting isn't at all going against the Constitution.
I don't think it's a partisan issue to say that Trump is attacking our freedom of the press, and
No, he's attacking the media for abusing freedom of the press to put untrue reports in articles. If you abuse a system long enough, the system falls apart. The media is what the freedom of the press needs protecting from, because the media is what threatens its existence by misusing it to push untruths as fact to sell a narrative.
the way Trump discusses the media is very dictatorial. Hitler's Nazi regime used the term Lügenpresse, or lying press, to discredit any media organizations that criticize them.
Oh, I was wondering how long we could go before we compared him to Hitler. Guess Godwin's law holds. However, your argument being so poor that reduction ad Hitlerum is necessary just shows that name-calling is your only way of trying to invalidate someone else's opinion, because after all, when you can't win an argument with facts or logic, just call everyone else a Nazi.
Even today, many countries highly censor their media and only disseminate information through official government channels, and that's exactly what Trump is heading towards.
But he never said that. In fact, you're not even saying that. He is still letting multiple news organizations in. And while you can argue that it's all the right-wing news all you like, the fact is that the left has lost the ability to use facts to put down the right. All they can do is exaggerate, lie, and compare to those who killed 6 million Jews in the Holocaust and started the Second World War. That's not news. That's setting out to sell an agenda. It's not freedom of the press. It's biased socialists setting out to disagree with everything done by Trump.
He's insulting and discrediting the mainstream media, which, by the way, is the free press, and he's saying that people can only get valid information directly from him. Now, that would be a messed up thing for any leader to say, but it's particularly concerning when this leader has such a problem with lying.
Ah yes, don't worry about the media constantly exaggerating and lying, guys, 'cause Trump does it on Twitter. Ignore it when the left do it, but condemn it when the right do.
Trump still can't admit that his inauguration crowd was tiny, even though we have photographic proof.
Yeah, he was probably bothered a little bit by the fact that the country he's now leading decided it would be more productive to protest and riot against democracy than come and welcome their new leader. See, that's the difference. People welcomed Obama with open arms, but Trump had riots. He's perfectly justified in not being happy with the situation and trying to pretend it was something else.
And he keeps claiming that he had a landslide victory in the Electoral College, even though he objectively did not. As recently as his February 16th press conference, he said that he won with 306 electoral votes, and that it was the largest win since Ronald Reagan. Except that he got 304 electoral votes, and Obama got more electoral votes than him in 2008 and 2012. Even just for Republicans, George H. Bush got more electoral votes than him in 1988. His Electoral College victory ranks 46th out of 58 elections, which is nowhere near a historic landslide.
So he's not correct about that, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter, does it? Trump misquoting figures doesn't change the fact that he won the election. It's not like anyone can remove him from office because he misremembered, or as you suggested, lied about the figures. He won the election, and that matters more than how much he won by. If you win the election, it doesn't matter whether it's a landslide victory or by the skin of your teeth. You're the fucking president.
How are we supposed to trust this president and believe only his information when he regularly lies about basic facts?
Because he isn't saying that the news should come directly from him. He's saying that the media shouldn't publish fake or exaggerated articles. He's not trying to take over the news, he's trying to make sure that news organizations are reporting facts.
We need the media to be able to call out these blatant lies because Trump clearly isn't going to fact check himself. On February 12th, senior White House policy advisor Stephen Miller said that the president will not be questioned. If you just listen to the clip of him saying it, it sounds like what you'd expect a dictator to say. Trump then went on Twitter to praise Miller. But the whole point of a free press is to question everything, including the president.
If the whole point of the free press is to question everything, were they all taking a holiday for the last 8 years while Obama was in office? Because all we heard was praise for him. And if they're supposed to be questioning everything, why are they not questioning themselves when they're publishing articles that are factually incorrect?
We need to be concerned about this, and if you cared at all about the First Amendment, you'd be supporting news organizations that stand up to Trump, not calling them fake news.
However, those two things are not mutually exclusive. Freedom of the press does not give the press the right to publish anything they please. It gives them the right to publish anything that is true, which is something that a lot of news media outlets such as the BBC, CNN, New York Times, and especially BuzzFeed seem to be having a hard time wrapping their head around.
Hey, getting blocked on Twitter by some SJW is probably the real threat to our democracy.
No, it's SJWs being bigoted. Rioting and protesting because the democratic elections haven't had the result you wanted as a real threat to democracy, and which bunch of cunts were doing that? Oh yeah, the same SJWs on Twitter that can't accept that not everyone agrees with them. And considering Trump seems to have gotten his mindset of no one can disagree with me from you bunch of cunts, I don't see how you can actually complain about this. You do the exact same fucking thing! You absolute fucking retard!
Thanks for watching this episode of Politics with Riley. I'll see you next time.
Yes, you will. You are exactly the kind of easy prey that I find it so fun to tear into. Alright guys, that's all I've got to say for this fucktard. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.